venture side of this equation, which cuts into obviously the labor side of the equation, there's something that I've seen develop, or not develop, it's always been there in the space sector, which actually will need to change out if we're going to effectuate Space 2.0, because Space 1.0 was a directed attempt to achieve a military objective, which was to plant a flag and dominance over the heavens, if you will, for lack of better words. But passion in space is a four-letter word, which basically means it's used as a way to drive you into a silo in a box or a cubicle where you're grinded for eternity. So passion coupled with the needs of the labor force of today need to be better balanced in order for Space 2.0 to grow. Let's peel the layers of that onion for a second. What's happened is that today's, the generations coming online now, they're used to a world of social media, they're used to a world of recognition for who they are. Versus in the past, you got your PhD, you became a Mechie, and you got your Rolex after 40 years of nobody knowing you existing from a hole in the wall. That's not the world we live in, so you need to cater to the labor force of today in order to attract them into the space industry, because they have options. Back in the day, they may or may not have had the options. The sexy industry was the space industry. But today you have many sexy industries that are calling you, and if you're going to say that here you are, you must have passion, and because of that passion, we're going to nail you to the wall and expect you to work your life away and destroy yourself as part of that equation, then that's not going to be sufficient in order to drive Space 2.0. Because here's the key takeaway. Space 2.0 is competing with every other industry out there. And it is not a directed attempt or a mandate like John F. Kennedy stated back in the day. So it has to compete its way for the labor in the future and for now. And the only way it can do that is to fine-tune itself to the needs of the labor force. Without a sufficient amount of labor force coming in, we're going to constantly be searching for good talent, which is going to be going to other industries. It actually isn't about branding or the way it's presented. It's actually the tangible result that that talent gets by engaging with the company or the industry writ large. So it's more about what is being delivered to this new talent in terms of recognition, personal recognition, as well as the ability to not be caught up in a silo forever. So I think overall we are in agreement. It's just, it has to be more than what's branded, because once they're sitting in that cubicle, all that branding goes away, and they are intelligent enough, that's why you hired them, for them to figure out whether they're getting the results they're seeking in their career. And if they're not, they're going to pivot. And God forbid, if they keep pivoting out of the space industry, Space 2.0 will only remain a vision. The industry is quite lopsided right now, because it's represented by at least, it's probably higher, but 80-20 split on the gender imbalance. So we need a lot more women in this industry, because it's abysmal, to be honest with you. And the way you change that, going back to the point being made, that in order to have the mentor that you can relate to, you need to have a female mentor, for not necessarily, but it helps. And that can only be driven by aggressively, and the industry as a whole, we all have to come collectively and address this challenge. Now, I know we've been trying to do this through STEM, but perhaps STEM education, but perhaps we're going to have to recruit enough women from other industries to come into this industry in order to create that balance, which will create that self-fulfilling cycle of having more women being the mentors of younger women, in order for us to achieve that balance. Because unless we achieve balance, gender equality in this industry, it's going to remain lopsided, and we're literally missing half of the planet's input into the greatest journey humanity is about to take. And that in itself is comical, because we need to fix that swiftly. academia is having that same challenge because they're traditionally reaching out to create new people in STEM industry. We're gonna have to learn to recruit from other industries and bring those people in. So if you have software expertise but you work at Google, we're gonna have to somehow make space attractive. My original point on the passion being a four-letter word was that we the space industry rely too much on passion as a way to get you in. Now think about this for a moment. If our industry gave you an excellent work environment, gave you enough money that you never dreamed of making, and then you could have flexibility in your job, you had the ability to take Fridays and explore other options, that would be such an amazing, rewarding career, right? Well, guess what? The companies like Google, Facebook, they all have that. They may be suffering right now, but they all have those criterias. And that's why we're losing people. Kids don't wake up, and say, we need to be in this industry or that industry. You attract them. And the setups we have don't facilitate that level of attraction. And that's why the space industry automatically leans on passion, because it already knows that it suffers on those attractants. So it says you must have passion and you're going to pay a price for that passion. If you didn't have passion, you would still have a truckload of people coming into space if it had all those attractants. This is going to be a mixed bag, but all right, academia. We have to go back and introspect what academia is actually teaching in the space sector, qualified subjects. Because if they're teaching from the past and then those students come out, then they're not equipped to deal with not just their industry's future, but the competitive landscape of other industries. So what's being taught becomes a challenge. It has to become more relevant to today's industries. And I'll just use a quick example on that. Like think of a journalist, somebody who's majoring in journalism. They come out. How come everybody who comes out with a journalism degree doesn't automatically become a superstar reporter or something, right? Like, why does that happen? Why do they get siloed? Because the way our structure in academia is set up is to create a large pool of workers. And that is something that has not been tweaked for the space industry. So they're automatically created to be drones in large corporations. So when you have that, you're not going to have enough industry trailblazers, renegades, who will come out and be able to come up with new concepts. You'll just have large companies. Large companies move like aircraft carriers. Small companies move like speedboats. And it takes 3 days to turn an aircraft carrier, make a U-turn. So it's a different approach, and we need a little bit of a change out there. And that's what's going to allow across the board changes for providing the companies the ability to change how they structure their training programs for their people. Because if you come out of academia having learned Space 1.0, and then that training may not be sufficient to gear you up for Space 2.0.